Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming my what I watched in October video. I'm going to try to do this one a little bit quicker. I tend to talk a little bit too much sometimes in these videos, and I want to try and shorten my videos a little bit, so hopefully that works out this time, but we'll see. Anyway, the first movie I watched in October was Hocus Pocus. So I pretty much started off October on a good start watching a Halloween film. This is one that I grew up watching, and I loved this film as a kid. I would watch it pretty much every Halloween, but I hadn't seen it for like the past 10 years. And I picked up the steelbook. I remember when I picked it up, I wasn't sure if I was going to keep it because, I don't know, the steelbook design wasn't my favorite and still isn't my favorite. But ultimately I decided to keep it. So yeah, I watched this one on October 1st, the first day of October, and yeah, rewatching it again, I still loved it. I still thought it was a pretty good film, even now. And the 4K transfer on this one actually looked really good. I was surprised how good it looked. Don't remember too much about the audio. I watched this one a while back, but I do remember being impressed with the visuals, especially like the lightning that they were throwing out through their hands. I thought that looked really good on the 4K transfer. So yeah, I definitely recommend picking up. I would just go with the slipcover. I don't think you need this steelbook. It's not like the best steelbook design. I still think the one for the Blu-ray was much better. The one that got released, I think like a year or two ago. But anyways, I'll give this one an 8 out of 10. Alright, then a few days later, I ended up watching 12 Angry Men. I finally convinced my wife to watch it because I had been wanting to watch this one for the longest time. And man, now I can see why this was in so many people's must-buy list of the Criterion collection, because yeah, I watched it and I thought it was amazing. I would definitely recommend this one for anyone who is wanting to pick up some films from the Criterion collection. This one is really good. It's pretty much about these 12 men pretty much deciding the fate of a young man who ended up committing supposedly a crime against his father. It happens at the beginning, so I don't think it's a spoiler, but he's on trial for the murder of his father. And we actually don't see the trial. This is everything after the trial, and it's just these jurymen deciding what their verdict is going to be. And just their back and forth, how everything happens from the beginning all the way till the end was just a good ride in my opinion. And well, this one was filmed in, was filmed in 1957, so it is black and white, but I wouldn't let that deter people from watching this film. Even though it is in black and white, it is still a good film. And yeah, I ended up giving this one a 9 out of 10. Definitely recommend. Alright, so another one I finally convinced my wife to watch. I had seen this one, but I just wanted her to watch it because she had never seen it before, and I always loved this film. But I hadn't seen it in the longest time, so on October 7th, we finally sat down and watched this one on 4K. And to be honest, I don't remember the 4K transfer blowing me away. I don't think it's one of the best 4K transfers, because otherwise I would have noticed something. Usually with 4Ks I try to pay attention, and this one just looked good, but it didn't blow me away. But the film was still amazing. I still had a fun time with it. I definitely enjoyed both I definitely enjoyed both Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman's performance in this one, and I'll give this one an 8 out of 10. Alright, so this next one I did watch by myself. It was just one that I had been wanting to watch for the longest time, and I had some time to watch a film actually by my own one day, so I decided to finally watch this one, and it was Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. So this one I was really looking forward to. I had heard lots of great things over the years. I heard that this film was pretty iconic, and for the time that it was filmed, which was 1968, which was quite a while ago. The effects definitely looked great. I will give them that. The film looked awesome. It looked like a film that was just shot a few years ago. But ultimately for me, I don't know, it just felt a little bit too slow. Maybe I was overhyping it and I just expected a little bit more from this one. which is why I ended up giving this one a 7 out of 10. So it's not my favorite film, but I do recognize that it was well shot. The 4K looked amazing. It sounded great too. And the last 30 minutes or so, those were pretty trippy, and I did enjoy watching that aspect. Definitely brought up a lot of questions for me, and I had to questions that I ended up searching on the internet. And so yeah, usually when movies make me do that, make me go search the internet and find out a little bit more about what exactly was going on. I do give them a little bit of credit there, so that's why I gave this one kind of like, it's not too high of a score, but a 7 out of 10 is still a pretty good score. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend this just for like average moviegoers, people who just love watching blockbusters. But yeah, even myself, I don't know if I would watch this one again. So I might end up trying to sell this one on Mercari. I still haven't decided yet, but at least I finally can say that I have watched it. So yeah, that was 2001: A Space Odyssey. Alright, so this next film was chosen by my sister-in-law, and my sister-in-law chose this one, and she decided that that night we would be watching Sully. And as the front of this case says, this is the story of Captain Sully and the miracle of him landing this Airbus A320 aircraft on the Hudson after the aircraft hit a huge flock of birds, and that bird strike actually caused both engines to fail on the aircraft. And for me, it was interesting to watch this film because I do work in the aerospace industry, and just how the FAA handled their investigation on Captain Sully and some of the issues that happened towards the end of the film were very interesting for me, and I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, it was an interesting watch, and I ended up giving this one an 8 out of 10. It was a good film. Alright, so the next one we watched was Onward, and this one I actually didn't log on my letterbox. That's usually how I keep track of the films that I watch and the ratings that I give them. But this one is missing from there, but I did watch this one day when I got home from work, and my mother-in-law, she loves watching films. Whenever she's here, we watch a lot of films, and she loves the Disney films in particular. And this was one that she hadn't seen, so I put this one on, and we ended up watching this one in Spanish, which I personally don't like doing just because as far as for the 4K discs, the Atmos track isn't included in the Spanish track. It's usually always stereo audio. And regardless of that, though, I usually do prefer watching my films in English, even though I do speak and know Spanish. But everybody has their preference. I know a lot of my Hispanic friends that do actually enjoy or prefer their films to be watched in Spanish, even though they primarily speak in English. But anyways, I showed her Onward, and I do like this film. I believe this is the most recent Pixar film, and it's a nice story. It's about these two brothers that go on an adventure this one day when the little brother, I don't remember their names, but when it's his 18th birthday, could be wrong, but I think it's when they were both of 18 years of age. Their father, who unfortunately had passed away, instructed the mother to give them this present once they were both of age, which turned out to be a magical staff, because in this world, while it is in a fantasy setting, magic had been lost. Everything had been modernized, so there was no need to use any more magic. But the father gave them this staff, and with it a spell that would allow the father to be back with them for a full day. But some stuff happened, and they were only able to bring back half of him. So the rest of the film is them going on an adventure to figure out how to bring the rest of him back. And it was a nice, heartfelt story. By the end, the bond of these two brothers definitely strengthened, and my mother-in-law also really enjoyed it. But since I don't have a rating on Letterboxd, I would say this is about 7.5 out of 10. Not quite an 8, but still pretty good. So I'm gonna try to speed up the rest of these. But on October 23rd, I wanted to show this. I've been wanting to show this one to my mother-in-law for the longest time. This is one of my personal favorite sci-fi films. I love this film to death. I've watched it since it came out, I think I've watched it at least once every year. I don't know why, it always draws me back and I always want to watch it again. And they did recently announce a steelbook for Best Buy, and I pre-ordered that one right away. There's not even a release date yet. But I definitely love this film. But unfortunately, my mother-in-law thought this was the most boring film she had ever seen. She really didn't like it, and she says it was one of the worst films that I had ever shown her. But regardless of what she thought, I still think it's an awesome film. And I give this one personally a 10 out of 10. I love this film, and I have rewatched it several times, and I will continue to rewatch it. And yeah, I'm excited to own that steelbook in the future. All right, so here's another one that I didn't log in my letterbox, but this is another film that I had to redeem myself after showing my mother-in-law Arrival, and I wanted to show her another film it's actually the same director, which is coming to be one of my favorite directors. How do you pronounce his name? I don't want to get it wrong. I don't see it anywhere, but it's Denis Villeneuve. I think that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, I've loved all of his filmography, at least the ones that I've seen so far, which is Prisoners, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, and I think those are all the ones that I've seen from him. But I personally love all of them, and yeah, with this one I think I did redeem myself because she did end up enjoying it, and I also enjoyed it. I hadn't seen this film in years, and if any of you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. It has Jake Gyllenhaal, which is also one of my favorite actors at the moment. I've loved everything that he's in. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's pretty much the story of two fathers who lose their daughters, their two young daughters, and the whole film is basically the two fathers and this detective trying to figure out where the daughters are. And there's a few prime suspects. And yeah, it pretty much shows how far these fathers are willing to go to figure out, to find their daughters. But yeah, well, I don't have this one on Letterboxd, but I would also give this one a 10 out of 10. It's an awesome film. All right, so next, man, we've had a lot of Hugh Jackman this month, but this was one that my brother-in-law actually chose. For some reason, he started talking a lot about Wolverine, and during his time here, I think something with Fortnite. I think there was a new skin, and he just got obsessed with Wolverine, and he wanted to watch a bunch of Wolverine films. And so I had already put for him like a bunch of X-Men films, but I personally didn't sit down and watch those with him, which is why they're not on this list. But this one I definitely wanted to sit down and watch with him because I love this film in particular, which is Logan. The whole family ended up sitting down and watching this one that night, and it was a great watch. I hadn't seen it since it came out, and yeah, I'm pretty sure most of you have seen this one, so there's not too much to say for me, but I loved it, and I give this one an 8 out of 10. Alright, so this next one is a classic, and it was a new release that came out this month, and it was for Back to the Future. I did end up getting these 4K steelbooks. I do have an unboxing for this one, so you guys can definitely check that one out. But this was a film that I hadn't watched in forever, like since, again, probably over 10 years ago. I've only watched, the last time I remember watching this was when I was a child, and so yeah, I didn't remember too much of it, but coming back to them, I can definitely see why these are considered to be classics. I'm pretty sure they're going to be great films to watch even years from now. This will always be one of those timeless classics that you can watch anytime. And yeah, the 4K transfer was also great in this one. I ended up giving this one an 8 out of 10. So I was trying to watch all the three films back to back, but I did get interrupted after watching the first film, and this is another one that we ended up watching as a family in Spanish, and that was Inside Out. And this time, I remember the first time I watched this film, the ending really impacted me. I thought it was a really great ending, and it even made me tear up, I'm not gonna lie, the first time I watched this. But the second time we watched it in Spanish, and I don't know if it was because I already knew the ending, but it just didn't feel the same. And even my wife and my mother-in-law, who we put this on for, they just thought it was okay. They didn't particularly like this film, but yeah, definitely wasn't great on a rewatch, and give this one a 7 out of 10. Alright, so then the next day I went back to the Future and I watched part 2, and I'm glad I watched it right the next day, because these are definitely great films to watch back to back. They definitely flow really well watching them one after another, and yeah, this one was also great. I'd give it the same score, 8 out of 10 for both part 1 and part 2. And unfortunately, part 3 I haven't been able to watch, so I'm still planning to watch it soon, so it'll probably be in my November video. But yeah, for this one, they both got 8 out of 10 so far. And then finally, the last film that we watched in October was Knives Out. And this one is becoming one of my favorites, because I've already watched it a few times now. It's one of those films that I always end up recommending to friends that haven't seen it. This is the second time I've recommended it, this time to my mother-in-law again. So we did watch this one in Spanish, but in this case, I didn't mind the Spanish at all. I was still really invested in the film, and I enjoyed watching it all the way through. And my mother-in-law also really liked it, so yeah, I'd give this one a 9 out of 10. And as far as the 4K transfer, I think this one looks really good. Even my mother-in-law, as we were watching it, she was like, wow, those images, it seems like they're popping out at me. It looks really good. They look real. I just remember her making a lot of comments as to how the film looked. So yeah, if she can tell, you definitely know that you have a good 4K transfer there. She usually doesn't really care much about what the movie looks like. But yeah, that was Knives Out. And that concludes my what I watched in October video. So you guys can see everything that I watched here. So unlike other people's October videos, mine didn't have much horror or Halloween type films. The only one was Hocus Pocus. And yeah, and that's mainly because in my household, I mean, we don't really watch too much scary films. This one is a Disney one, so it's passable. So yeah, that's pretty much the reason. And it's not to say I personally don't like scary films. I actually do like some of them. It's nice watching a scary film every now and then, but yeah. Either way, I think I did still watch quite a lot this month, actually. And yeah, I hope you guys liked this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.